O mountains of Mecca, what can you say of the day that Abraham passed your way? And he was instructed by God to build a house of peace where people will pray, and they will come on every lean camel and out of every ravine for the purpose of praising Allah, to glorify Allah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Hajj Insights. I'm your host, Ridwan Shamim, and this is a series where we learn about the great pillar of Hajj. Alhamdulillah, we have the opportunity with our Sheikh Muhammad Salah to talk about Hajj and what it entails. In our last episode, we spoke about who should be actually going Hajj and what does Hajj mean, and we touched upon Ihram. Assalamu alaikum, Ya Sheikh. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, and thank you for asking.
As I explained to the viewers, we touched about why it's important to do Hajj and who should be going Hajj. We want to talk slightly more about the Ihram and the Miqat. You mentioned some points about the Miqat. I have a few questions just before we start.
Sure.
You said that while someone is going into to make their Hajj or Umrah, they must pass a point called a Miqat and make an intention at that point.
Correct.
Imagine if someone passes that point and they forget to make that intention. What would they have to do?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأولين والآخرين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Al-Ihram is the first pillar of either Umrah or Hajj. It's a pillar.
Yeah.
You cannot just indulge into the act of Umrah or Hajj without making Ihram or assuming the intention of entering into Ihram. And announcing the Ihram at the appointed places, the proper appointed areas, or the Mawaqit is a must.
Okay.
But if somebody passed the Miqat, the appointed place, without assuming the intention of Ihram, without saying the Talbiyah, whether that was done deliberately for a reason or another, or out of forgetfulness, or he fell asleep in the plane or any means of transportation.
Which can happen, yeah.
Or even furthermore, out of ignorance.
Okay.
And this is a very common problem.
So he
we meet
didn't
people
know.
at Jeddah airport, they say, well, what shall we make Ihram? We didn't know. So in this case we say, to rectify that,
Okay.
there are one of two choices. The first choice is that you must go back to the Miqat, to the appointed place. What about if you're flying? It's impossible.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it's not that free you can tour around in the country. Once you enter with the intention of performing Hajj, you only have certain territories, which is Jeddah, Mecca, and Medina. You cannot just wander around.
Yeah.
So that will take us to the next option automatically, which is to rectify that you assume the intention of Ihram from whichever place you were informed,
Yeah.
and you learn that you skipped the Miqat, and now you must slaughter a fidya, a sheep.
Okay.
A sheep to be slaughtered and distributed, its meat must be distributed entirely on the poor people of Mecca. It's different than the Hadi and Udhiyah, because in the other two cases we get to eat from it. But in the case of the fidya, this is a ransom. To rectify a violation, a wajib that you skipped. So in this case you must do so. And that's why I say, please educate yourselves and study very well. And it doesn't cost you nor take you much to learn about the procedures and the rituals of Hajj beforehand.
Okay.
I believe it is very important for us to study what's restricted during the state of Ihram.
Okay.
We said Ihram is similar to Takbirat al-Ihram in the prayer. There are certain acts which will become prohibited and restricted. And in case that any person violated that, there is fidya.
Okay.
Or an expiation for that, as we'll explain right now. First of all, if a couple are performing Hajj together or Umrah in a state of Ihram, and once he said لبيك عمرة or لبيك حجا, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said Al-Hajj ashhurun ma'lumat. فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج. So he prohibited completely الرفث, which is a sexual talk or sexual relations, an intimate relation between the couple, or what leads to that.
Okay.
So you completely avoid having any intimate relationship with your spouse during the state of ihram. There are some restrictions which are only pertaining men.
So there's a difference between men and women?
Slight difference.
Okay.
Such as in the case of men, that they are not allowed to wear any stitched clothes.
Okay.
You're not allowed to wear what you're wearing right now, or what I'm wearing. No shawal qamis, no thobe, or aba'a, or a suit and tie. So what do we wear? We wear izar and rida. And izar is the lower towel,
Okay.
to wrap it around the waist. Somebody will say, but it is stitched, at least the edges.
The edges.
I understand, but we're talking about the clothes which were made to be worn in a special form or shape, like a shirt or pants or a jacket or a coat. No, we're talking about here non-stitched clothes, because this is very very simple form of covering the awrah. Similar very much to the coffin, and similar very much to the towels that they receive the baby once he or she is born. And because that resembles our beginning and it resembles our end, free from any beautification, from any jewelry, from any fancy or luxurious means, in a very simple form and shape. And the other piece is called rida, because you wear it over your shoulders, to cover both shoulders.
Okay.
It's quite interesting that you see people, once they wear the rida right away, they uncover the right shoulder, and they stay in this condition 24/7. What is this for? Because this is what they have seen on videos.
Yes.
They think this is Hajj. No. Uncovering the right shoulder is a prophetic tradition only in the very first tawaf, which is known as Tawaf al-Qudum or Tawaf al-Umrah. So after the arrival tawaf. And after you finish the tawaf, you must cover both shoulders.
Okay.
What we see that our brothers are constantly wearing in this condition, which is called ittiba', and covering the right shoulder, it's a mistake, especially in the prayer.
So this is very specific to a specific action.
Exactly, and it has a reason.
Okay.
Similar to another act which we'll discuss it during the traditions of tawaf as well.
Yeah.
Another restriction which covers both men and women,
Yes.
wearing or touching or using any scented substances, or wearing perfumes or colognes or any oil that have fragrance. That's completely restricted. While we said prior to assuming the intention of ihram, amongst the preparations before taking ghusl, etc., clipping the nails, removing the hair, the underarm hair, and shaving the pubic area, that it is recommended for both men and women to wear the cologne or the perfume against their bodies, not against the ihram clothes.
So not actually putting it on the ihram.
Not on the ihram.
Body.
If you ever put on the ihram, you must wash it off or change it to another ihram. On the body, on the forehead, for instance. But nowadays, because of the crowd, women are not allowed to wear the perfume. Because it is prohibited anyway during any other time for a woman to wear any fragrance or perfume that will attract men or people who are walking by to look at her. Even if she's going for the prayer. The Prophet ﷺ says if she does so, she must return home to wash herself off from the perfume. Then if she wants to resume and go back to pray.
So just to clarify that point, sorry, Sheikh, to stop you. Just to clarify that point, the women are asked not to do that now.
Correct.
Okay, so the men are...
But this sunnah was general for men and women.
Okay.
Because in the past, women would perform tawaf at night.
At night time, okay.
Okay? But now it is very crowded, and we see that men and women are competing even over the black stone.
Yes.
So it is very hard to avoid smelling the fragrance or the perfume of a woman. You should avoid it completely.
Okay.
But if a woman is performing umrah in off-peak time, such as right after Ramadan, where everybody departed, or a month after Hajj, local people get to perform Umrah, and you see just very few people performing Umrah. So you may do that if you wish, because it would not attract that many men.
Okay.
Okay? Another restriction, which is hunting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ صَيْدُ الْبَحْرِ وَطَعَامُهُ مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِلسَّيَّارَةِ وحرم عليكم صيد البر ما دمتم حرما. Surah Al-Ma'idah. It has been permitted for you to eat and consume the fish which you catch from the sea.
Okay.
But in the state of ihram, hunting is prohibited.
Okay.
Okay? Nor can you even eat from the animal which you hunted.
Right.
Another restriction which is very interesting one. Processing or being a part of a marriage contract.
Yeah, that is interesting.
During the state of ihram. And when we say these restrictions, some people think, they panic. They think it's very hard, and I'm afraid like they're walking on the edge.
Yes.
It's very simple, because the ihram, if you arrive from your journey to Mecca, the Umrah maximum would take 2 to 3 hours.
Yes.
So it is not a big deal. You're not going to be in a state of ihram forever. It's easy to avoid these restrictions. Now we speak about women. How do they dress up in ihram? Women in ihram, number one, completely avoid wearing any makeup.
Okay.
Henna is permissible.
Yes.
But other makeup and eye liners and eyelashes and lipstick and all of that, and this is completely dangerous, especially in the state of ihram. That can jeopardize your Hajj.
Okay.
And can ruin it.
How about
So
their
the
clothes?
sisters, the sisters who come from particular cultures are not aware of that. Everybody who passes by any of them should inform them. Sometimes when we take the elevator up or down and say, everywhere it smells beautiful perfumes. The sister doesn't know that she's not going to a party.
Yeah.
And perfume for women is only at home,
Yeah.
for their maharim, for their husbands, not outside.
Yeah.
It's a major sin. So you must avoid that. And what about the outfit? You know, in your regular everyday clothes, this is for women, what you normally wear as a hijab, except for the fact that the ihram of a woman is in her hands and face. Should not cover both hands and face during the state of ihram, unless if she is a woman who is wearing a niqab, the face cover. Then if she happens to pass by men, as Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha wa ardaha narrated, she would lower what's known as isdal from top of her head, or a khimar, to cover only if she's around non-mahram men.
Sheikh, what we'll do is we're going to talk about this slightly more after the break, inshallah. If you will stay with us, inshallah, after the break, we'll hear more exactly about the ihram of the women. Inshallah, see you soon. Jazakallahu khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Inshallah, on the straight path, we would like to discuss the niqab from an Islamic and social political perspective.
So sometimes some non-Muslims, they might not understand the full Islamic pictures. Anyone can say anything about it.
Yes.
So when can we, who speaks for Islam? This is the biggest question. Who speaks for Islam? No, they are not sinning. They are not sinning, but we are talking about now the general ruling. They are not sinning, but they are going against what has been established. It is his own ijtihad at a specific time.
People would see it as
Threat.
a threat.
Exactly.
How do we explain to them it's not really a threat, it's actually good for the country as well? But if we don't participate, how would we ever reach to our rights? Can you clarify with us what should be the level of political participation of the Muslims in the West?
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Hajj Insights. Earlier in the show we were talking about the restrictions of Hajj. Inshallah, the Sheikh, is there any more restrictions that we have with regards to Ihram?
I would just like to make a comment. We do not really call it the restrictions of Hajj. Why?
Okay.
Because, for instance, if you perform in Hajj or Tamattu, right after you finish the Umrah, you are in a regular state,
Yeah.
where you can practice whatever was restricted during the state of ihram.
Okay.
And that's why in fiqh it is called mahzuratul ihram.
Okay, specific to ihram.
Yes. But after you undo your ihram, after you finish your umrah, if you and your spouse are sharing the same room, you're free to have an intimate relationship.
Okay.
If you want to get married, it is permissible. And wear your regular clothes, wear your perfume if you're a man, etc. There was one more restriction I wanted to address, which is clipping the nails or removing any hair from the entire body. Once you are in a state of ihram, we said you prepare yourself beforehand, but once you are in a state of ihram, you do not remove any hair or nail from your body. And a very, very important mahzur or restriction during Hajj at large, but particularly during the state of ihram, and I hope that can last with us after Hajj, which is quarreling and argument. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَمَنْ فَرَضَ فِيهِنَّ الْحَجَّ فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. It is very interesting that argument, particularly false argument, is a sin, right? So it could be under the umbrella of the fusuq in general. But because it is very common, and some people, sometimes they get stuck in a conversation, then in an argument, then in a fight, verbal fight, they do not feel it until after it's over, then they regret
what they've said.
What can I do? Do I have to offer a dam? Do I have to offer a fidya or a sacrifice? I regret. So from the beginning, if I'd like to advise myself, or any of my brothers and sisters who are going for Hajj, what you need to do is you need to practice patience and control your temper. Just think about this fact. This is the biggest world annual meeting. 3 to 4 million people. It's like a rainbow color. White, black, red, Russians, Americans, Chinese, Arab, non-Arab, men and women, young and old, different ethnicities, different mother tongues. This is really amazing. There is no country on earth can organize such conference or meeting. It is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who facilitates that and makes it happen. It is by the leave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if somebody steps on your shoe, take it easy. If somebody shows you a frown face, smile to him. If somebody crossed the line, pardon him. This is a moment where you're begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, and you wanted Him to pardon you and forgive you and remit all your past sins. So you better do that to others. Be forgiven in order to be forgiven. So this is the most important advice from the beginning to end. فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا particularly جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. By that, we covered the mahzurat, or the restrictions during the state of ihram.
I want to speak to you about something called tahallul.
Tahallul.
Sorry,
that is the opposite of ihram.
Okay. Because that comes up in a lot of the books, and there's probably viewers out there that are quite interested in trying to.
And this term will be used very often in the next few episodes as well. So it's very important to compare tahallul to ihram.
Okay.
We dress up in ihram and we announce the intention of talbiyah and assume the intention of ihram in order to indulge into the nusuk or performing either umrah or hajj.
Okay.
Once you finish the rituals of umrah or hajj, what's next? You need to exit out of this state of ihram to practice your daily activity regularly.
Okay.
That's called tahallul.
Okay.
And that would be simply done by either shortening or shaving the hair. Shaving is an option only for men, but shortening is for both men and women. So once we finish the umrah, we go to the barber shop, or if you have a clipper or a razor, or you want to do it yourself, or have somebody do it for you, that is permissible. And there's a common myth that if you are in a state of ihram, you cannot give yourself a haircut at the time of tahallul, nor can another muhrim give it to you, nor can you give it to another person, which is a myth. That's not true. You say, but I'm in a state of ihram. I know. You were in a state of ihram as long as you did not finish the nusuk. Now you finished the nusuk, and now it is due to do tahallul. Similar to, it is not permissible to eat nor to drink, etc. while you're fasting. But at sunset, you must eat and drink. So whatever was haram or restricted or mahzur a few minutes ago, now it's permissible. Okay? So at-tahallul is to exit from the state of ihram. Once you're done with the manasik of either umrah and Hajj. In the case of the Umrah, there is only one tahallul, and simply done by shaving or trimming. If, as we discussed in the first episode, you're performing Hajj tamattu',
Yeah.
you enter Mecca, you perform your Umrah in a couple of hours, and now you go to the barber, you remove your hair or shorten your hair, that's called tahallul, and now you can resume your regular life. Do everything that is permissible before ihram. But if somebody is doing Hajj al-Qiran, he's joining the Hajj to the Umrah without taking a break in between, meaning without tahallul.
Okay.
So the restrictions or the mahdurat of ihram will last even during Hajj,
Okay.
and until he finishes the rites of Hajj. One very important thing I wanted to discuss before
Yeah.
it's over, which is what if somebody did any of the mahdurat or restrictions, either accidentally or out of ignorance, or have to do it for a reason or another. Have to do it means what? Have to do it, we say shaving, removing any nail or hair from the body is restricted. But sometimes it is prescribed medically for some people to remove their hair,
Yeah.
to shave, such as if they have, God forbid, lice.
Yeah.
And that happened during the life of the Prophet ﷺ with one of his companions. The Quran talks about that in verse number, I believe, 196
Okay.
of Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ بِهِ أَذًى مِّن رَأْسِهِ فَفِدْيَةٌ مِّن صِيَامٍ أَوْ صَدَقَةٍ أَوْ نُسُكٍ.
Okay.
We need to pay close attention to the option here.
Yeah.
Whoever is ill or has some harm in his head or hair has to shave, go ahead and shave.
Yeah.
Then you can rectify that simply by offering a fidya. The fidya, once the word fidya is mentioned in Hajj, most pilgrims' mind would go to slaughtering a
Yeah.
sheep or 1/7 of a cow
Yeah.
or a camel. That's not necessarily true in this case.
Okay.
If somebody has to do any of the violations of ihram other than intercourse, of course,
Yeah.
or al-rafath, then in this case, the fidya for shaving or having to wear the regular clothes, or
Yeah.
for shaving, the fidya is صدقة ففدية من صيام أو صدقة أو نسك, to fast for 3 days, or to give a sadaqah to feed 6 masakin,
Yeah.
or to slaughter a sheep.
Okay.
There is a choice. It is better, of course, to feed the poor by slaughtering a sheep and so on, because it's more beneficial for the poor and the masakin.
But the person has the choice to choose.
Exactly. Okay? So this is a fidya. But what if somebody did whatever was restricted out of ignorance or out of forgetfulness? Somebody totally forgot that he is in a state of ihram, and he started trimming his mustache, or shaving, or whatever. He did not know. Or wore a kufi, or pair of socks. Many times in Arafah, you see people wearing their underclothes, or their socks in a kufi. What is this? They don't know. They think it is okay and it goes along with the uniform. No. So simply by saying, no, this is restricted, he's informed. By removing this and fixing this,
Yeah.
there is no blame on them, and they do not have to offer any fidya.
Okay.
The fidya is only on those who have to do whatever I mentioned earlier for a reason or another, a valid excuse, such as فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ بِهِ أَذًى مِّن رَأْسِهِ.
So just to summarize that point, so if someone does something, breaks a restriction of ihram out of ignorance, and at that point you're saying he's told about socks, let's say, for example, he takes the socks off,
And that's it.
and that's it.
Yes.
MashaAllah.
And the ransom which I mentioned in the verse of Surah Al-Baqarah is pertaining sickness, ailment, or having to shave the hair. But there are some restrictions. If the Hajj violated them, it would ruin the Hajj.
Okay.
Such as al-jima', an intercourse, coming to a complete sexual relation with one spouse during the state of ihram.
Okay.
This is the biggest violation. Number 1, Hajj is ruined. Number 2, there is a big ransom. It's not about a sheep, it's about a camel per each. Number 2, they must come back next year or whenever the earliest opportunity to make up that Hajj which they missed or violated, even if it was a nafl or a voluntary Hajj, not just the mandatory.
Jazakallah khair, Ustaz and our teacher, for your information. Inshallah, viewers, stay with us. In our next episode, we will learn even more about this great part of our Islam, Hajj. Jazakallah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Mountains of Mecca, what can you tell of the day that stones from the sky fell, destroying an army determined to break the house of Allah that Abraham built? Oh, mountains of Mecca, how was the dawn on the day that my prophet Muhammad was born? How did it feel knowing he was to be the last and most beloved of all, Rasul of Allah, Nabi